This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Mark Allen Frost is our special guest. Right at present, he is channeling Seth. And for more information on Mark Allen Frost as well as Seth, visit www.sethreturns.com. That's sethreturns.com. Seth, what do you think about the new political administration in Washington and politics in general on this planet Earth?
Yes, let me expound. We just spoke of the old soul type.
Mm-hmm.
What you have here with this new administration is young soul types. These are humans sort of dipping their toes into physical reality and being childish about it. So they are not the type of soul that has many reincarnational experiences under the belt. They are young investigators of physical reality. And so they do not really appreciate the repercussions of their behaviors. So this is a leader who surrounds himself with other young soul types. I've called this in my forecast for 2017 an experience of the worst of the worst. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that some good will not come out of this. I think much good will come out of this because people are being activated. They're coming to a perception of the truth of their political systems. They're seeing what's really going on here. The truth of the matter is that your election systems are fatally flawed and do not actually yield the results that they are supposed to, that they pretend to. They are fixed, as many of you know. So you have a damaged electoral system that is pushed and pulled. And the result is this anomaly. A young soul presidency. People are outraged. So millions of people are becoming activated to push this fellow out of office. Now, I've said in my forecast, that's good for the country to attempt it. I don't think it's going to happen, however. You're getting, in a sense, what you asked for.
I understand. Could you give us some other predictions that you see here in the future?
Well, in my forecast, I give the good and the bad. Most people, however, are more interested in the negative probable manifestations. So I put them at the end of my forecast so they will at least read
the positive
through my theoretical expositions.
I like that.
But primarily the probable negative manifestations that you are in or that remain to be experienced by large numbers of people I submit that this is the era in which these weather modification technologies that have run amok will be recognized by large numbers of people, and their representatives in Congress will begin to talk about it publicly. They already talk about it privately. This is a year that I see is a turning point for humanity. They're going to have to rein in these weather modification technologies in order to, again, rescue yourselves from your own meddling. I also maintain that this is the year, and in following years, in which what we call the shadow government in our books will be called out, will become a topic of conversation with the average citizen, as we call them, people who are not yet awakened but will be, because they will be forced to recognize what's going on here. I also suggested that 2017 will be the year of the volcano and earthquakes. I draw your attention to there's a high probability that you'll have a large earthquake on the West Coast, on your Pacific Rim. It will cause major damage.
And this is for 2017.
Pardon? Yes.
And this is for the Earth year 2017.
Yes, this is in your probable future. It's manifesting as we speak.
Seth, what do you mean by the term natural time in your books? And what is it?
Natural time is it's Mother Nature's time. It is the timing of celestial bodies, primarily the moon, the lunar phases of the moon. It has a connection to what we call the ancient wisdom, the knowledge of the way things are that your ancient ancestors had, and that the modern human can tap into. It's a way of creating your reality according to your own intuition. You're taking your own advice. You connect to this information stream, the ancient wisdom. It immediately puts you into natural time. It's pretty much the opposite of what I call TikTok reality, in which you have clocks to tell you what time it is, an artificial representation of natural time. Well, you get a feeling of connection, and you become your own prophet. When you are connected in natural time, I used to call it psychological time. It is a light trance state in which you go within. It doesn't mean that you have to be laying down or in the lotus position. You can do it while talking to someone. And you, in essence, tune in to all that is, everything that exists and will exist, and ask particular questions. You receive immediate answers when you do this.
Seth,
natural time.
Seth, I want to thank you for taking your time through Mark to join us, but I would like to finish off this hour with Mark. And once again, thank you for all you do and for all you bring to humanity.
Thank you very much for having us. We will speak at another time, perhaps.
I would like that.
Yes, I will give Mark back his apparatus here. Okay.
Interesting. Welcome back, Mark.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Mark, after the, we had about a half hour with Seth. How do you feel after that half hour? What recall do you have?
Well, I have memory of going in and coming out, but the bulk in the middle, I have no idea.
Do you feel refreshed as people feel when they come back or come out of a hypnotic session?
Yes, I do. On these short channelings, I do feel refreshed. Sometimes, though, when I have a phone client and I'm channeling Seth and giving advice for an hour or an hour and a half, it is taxing. It taxes my physical body.
Well, this hour went by very fast, my friend. I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure having you, and we'll certainly have you and Seth back on in the near future. And we've got about 30 seconds. What would you like to share with the world right now?
Well, first I'd like to thank you for inviting us on and allowing us to share with your audience. And I would just like to remind people that this thing that Seth calls a positive manifestation, in New Age parlance, the New Earth, it's sort of a utopian construct that seems unattainable to many people. What Seth is telling us is that this is attainable in practical terms by anyone.
All right.
You can have your
I hate to cut you off, but we
utopian ideal now.
Believe. It's all in belief. Mark, thanks very much for joining us. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Mark and Seth, visit SethReturns.com. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
Thank you so much.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere. 24/7, 365. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. Mark Allen Frost is my special guest this hour. His website is SethReturns.com. I'm sorry we had to kind of cut you off during the last segment to go to the commercial break, but please continue this fascinating story.
When we last spoke, I was describing my efforts to pull Seth in through a client of mine, Kat Smith. And remarkably, it occurred very easily. With her eyes closed, I was asking for Seth to come through.
Right.
And in this deep, sort of guttural voice, she said, I'm here. I said, you're here? He said, yes, you asked for me and I'm here. I said, you're Seth? He said, yes, Mark. I said, are you the Seth that spoke through Jane Roberts? He said, indeed I am. Then I gave him a few confirming questions to see if it was, at this point, I thought it might be some elaborate prank because I was graduating from the university, a very elaborate prank. And so I gave him some questions. The first one, Cass and I discussed what were the questions we were going to ask him, because he might come through and then never come through again. So we asked him big, important questions. Hers was, at that time, there was this epidemic, people were calling it an epidemic of breast cancer in Marin County, where we were, San Rafael, California.
Right.
And so I asked Seth, what is the reason for this high incidence of breast cancer in women in this area? He immediately launched into this explanation of he said it was a fungus associated with sudden oak death, and that this fungus that was killing all the oak trees in Marin County had evolved, or I should say mutated,
right,
into a form that was able to come into humans through the mouth, through inhaling.
Would that be
while
like
they
through,
were on the hiking trails of Marin?
So could this be like the spores that they would be ingesting and
Spores,
breathing in?
yes.
Wow.
That was his description. And so I got Cass to do a drawing while she was in trance of these things and what they look like. They look like a little spider, a crude little spider with little hairs around it, as you would imagine. And so I said, well, what are we to do? He said, well, you burn them. The only way to get rid of them is to burn where they live, and they live in the oak trees. He also said the women could protect themselves by bleaching the bottoms of their shoes and before they come into the house, so that don't bring these spores in, inhale them, and get them in their system in that way. So that began a journey of me trying to provide this information to scientists, which was sort of, looking back on it now, it was humorous to think that they would listen to me.
Wow.
But I did try. I went to the people who were studying that, and the guy said, this expert said, well, that's impossible. The human body will destroy those spores if they're inhaled. That was back in 2002. And so I sort of dropped it and said, well, maybe Seth is wrong on this one. But recently, the last few years, I've been doing searches on possible causes of breast cancer in women. And there it is. This, an Italian researcher suggests that it is a mutated spore, fungus, that causes breast cancer, some breast cancers.
Unbelievable.
So that was the first question we asked. Other questions? Why did Jane Roberts have to die at such an early age? She made her transition in her late 50s. And Seth said, well, she was a smoker till the end. And she never stopped, and she went out sort of in a defiant way, smoking on her deathbed, essentially. Questions like that. I asked a few questions that only Seth or the people involved with him in this project with Jane would know, and they were answered to my satisfaction. So I continued, and amazingly so, after this little discussion, Seth began transcribing. He began to dictate the material for his first book with us, 9/11, The Unknown Reality of the World. So the book began on that day in March 2002, and in a few weeks, 8 weeks or so, we had enough material to print the book, and we did.
Wow.
It required very little editing. It's channel material, so it arrives intact, essentially.
So am I to understand that now you yourself channel Seth?
Yes.
Wow. How did the transition go from Jane Roberts to you?
Well, the transition went from Seth to Jane Roberts, Seth to Cass Smith, and then Cass essentially got cold feet. She had no idea who Seth was.
Right.
And she started reading up on him, and some of the old Seth material talks about Seth's ardent students camping out on the front porch of the Roberts family, and Cass did not want this sort of attention. She was raising a 13-year-old child, having some difficulties at that, and so she said, well, Mark, you take it to the people, and I'll be back here writing the books. We did that for a while. It became too much for her also. So Seth and I agreed that he would teach me how to pick up on his communication stream. It took a few weeks, and the first book we wrote together, the next chapter in the evolution of the soul, we published that in 2003. So we've been printing about a book a year since then, Seth and I.
Unbelievable.
I know. I agree.
Where is Seth from? Where does he reside now?
He resides extra-dimensionally. He's a non-physical being. And in his messages to us, his theory is that he is one of many, many non-physical beings that humans call the elemental spirits, gods, goddesses, ascended masters. All of these entities, or gestalts of consciousness, he also calls them, exist extra-dimensionally in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. And according to him, he freely travels throughout the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions and other systems that he claims are too chaotic to be perceived. But he's comfortable in these other dimensions, and he's described his visits there to me. That's what he does. He's an interdimensional voyager of types, an educator, and at times a counselor.
I understand Seth is helping you to make a movie about the end of the world, incorporating his idea, and it's a musical comedy. What's that about? This
is going to be an attempt to spread the message to large groups of people. This is a very low-key affair up to this point. It's Seth and me in my room, and me transcribing his material, printing it in books, and people going online, downloading the books or buying the books. We also print them in paperback form. So he wants to go multimedia,
yeah,
so that more people can get this message. His crucial message is that we are at a crossroads here. Humanity is attempting to destroy itself, essentially,
Right.
with nuclear weapons. And so he wants to spread the message that we have to come together. All nations have to get together to ban nuclear weapons.
Let me ask you this, Mark, and I'm sorry to interrupt
Yes.
you, but this question just popped up. I agree with Seth 100% that the nations of the world must get together and solve this nuclear threat. I agree with him 100%. But what does Seth think about the development of artificial intelligence to the point where it itself will become a threat to humanity?
Funny you should ask. That's the subject of the movie that we're going to make, The Virtual Guy.
Wow.
So that's a kind of coincidence.
It is, because you and I did not speak about this prior.
That's true. I think you're picking up on the telepathic network here.
Wow.
As Seth calls it.
I'm getting
Yeah,
goosebumps.
The Virtual Guy is about that. It's about what would happen if all of the end of the world prophecies manifested in 1 week. And this includes the singularity, which is what happens theoretically when artificial intelligence becomes sentient so that it can think for itself. What would happen?
That's right. And a lot of people around the world today listening to us are probably saying to themselves, oh, these guys are talking science fiction. But you know what? It's closer than they think.
Certainly. Yes, we're right on the verge.
Exactly. We're on the cusp. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Great talking to you. And Mark Frost will be back with me as we come up with more questions for Mark as well as Seth. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, X Zone Radio TV, and Simul TV. We'll both be back on the other side of this break. Whatever you do, don't go away. And by the way, if you'd like to find out what other great programming we have available for you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Mark Allen Frost is my special guest to this hour here in the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, X Zone Radio TV, and, of course, on Simul TV on the X Zone TV channel. Mark, thanks very much for joining us. Great pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
We talked basically and very briefly about the end of the world, the movie about the end of the world that Seth is helping you produce. But I also understand you have a new Seth book out called The Visionary Chronicles.
Oh, yes. We just published a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's an ebook. I don't think we're going to print this one. It's an ebook that describes the trials, tribulations, and joys of channeling Seth. He identifies the people that read his books as visionaries. They're people that are looking for the truth and finding it. And so in this book, I document my experiences being the channel for Seth.
Right.
And taking his advice. He loves to give advice, and he is there as sort of a coach for me and his students around the world. They phone us up, they make appointments, and Seth counsels them as a beloved coach would, you might say. And so this book documents this relationship I have with Seth that is not without its trouble. Seth, in the Seth theory, he talks about why people come to this planet. Essentially, people come in with a sort of broad plan, a trajectory of experience that will reveal to them their issues. And according to Seth, your issues are those parts of your personality that get you in trouble with people, essentially. Wow. You might call them your personality deficits.
And we all have those.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
According to him, the way to learn your lessons, identifying your issues and learning your lessons, is a spiritual pursuit. He means that literally, that humans are required, you might say, to go on an individual quest for understanding, personal understanding, planetary understanding, the meaning of life type of thing. And thus he calls these people visionaries. It's about a 10 or 12% of the population that goes on these spiritual pursuits through organized religion and so on. And so the quest turns out generally for people, just as it does in the spiritual literature, you ask for guidance.
Right.
You sort of ask the universe, well, what's the meaning of my life? Why am I here? And then if you're fortunate, you get a response. The universe responds through one of these non-physical beings, such as Seth, spirit guides, gods and goddesses. They respond if you ask. And that begins this inquiry where you ask, essentially, yourself. You're asking your higher centers of awareness what to do. It's an age-old story of people being inspired by spirit to go on to lead a good life, an ethical life, let's say, according to the virtues of humanity, that type of thing.
How
Did that
hard?
answer your question?
Yeah, it does in great detail, and thank you for that. How hard would it be for you to channel Seth so I can ask him a few questions?
It'd be very easy. Would you like to do that?
Oh, I'd love to, and I'm sure our audience would love it as well.
Okay, it'll take about 15 seconds to pull him in.
All right, let me know when Seth has arrived.
Okay. You have some questions for me?
Seth, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Seth, what is the awakening of humanity that you talk about in your books?
The awakening of humanity is a rescue effort that's being undergone by a fragment of the population of your planet. People who see that there's something wrong. People who are on spiritual programs of various types, people who are looking for the truth. I think what these people are picking up on is a probable future that exists in which large portions of the population are decimated. So they see this post-apocalyptic probability and feel compelled to do what they can as individuals to prevent it.
Are we talking about the apocalypse as depicted in the Christian Bible in the book of Revelation?
Yes, I would say that is an apt metaphor, the apocalypse. However, consider that the world's religions each have their own idea about what an end of world situation might be. And so we speak to the broad concept of the end of existence, and I give it this additional spin, you might say. The probabilities do exist for a global apocalypse, and that is because there is this, it's an amalgam of negative emotion projected by millions of people, the opposites of the virtues of humanity, because humans create their own realities in association with what you might call the divine, the creative source. The negative naysayer types, they are winning in a sense. There is not a utopia on Earth. There is this trend to dystopia as you are controlled by these global elite negative leaders who aspire to subjugate humanity generally and profit thereby.
How do you see us here in this reality? You know, what do we look like from where you are?
Well, I see you. I'm seeing you through Mark's eyes, through his apparatus, as we call it. And I see you in your light construct, the light body. It has visual components representing your various reincarnational existences. So I can see where you have been. I can have a fairly good idea about where you're headed, future incarnations after you make this transition. Now, Mark is the same way. We have an affinity, he and I. We're from the same entity, what we call the Seth entity. I see you as having an association with the Seth entity, but it's not your primary focus. You have other entities that you associate with, more attuned to the expression of the intellect. Does that make sense?
It does. So based on what you see in my past incarnations, where do you see me in the future reincarnations?
Let's see here. Your probable future, I see you as finishing up. I don't think you have a vast probable future ahead of you. I see you as finishing up in this lifetime. As you make your transition, you're a spiritual type. I see you as going through your transition with your consciousness intact. I don't see it obliterated. I see you as waking up in the afterlife, as we call it, fourth dimensional reality, and enjoying the process. However, all humans, all souls, look back on the life they've just left and see where improvements can be made, particularly around where love was required but was not given by you. So you look at these events and you, through a sort of holographic display, go in and fix it. We call it finishing up. I see you as being involved in that for some time and being not inclined to pursue future incarnations, but to remain there as a teacher.
So my mission in these incarnations will have been completed?
Yes, old soul.
Excellent.
That's what I see when I see you.
Successful completion of the mission?
Yes, successful, I would say.
All right.
Now that's up to you. Do you think it's successful or not? These are the questions you ask yourself on the other side, as they say.
These are the questions I also ask myself on this side, Seth. Seth, you and I and Mark must take a commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone. Please stand by. X Zone Nation, Mark Allen Frost is my guest, and he is channeling Seth right now. And if you'd like more information on Mark or Seth, visit SethReturns.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And this is our 26th year of doing this show. Over 4,900 guests. Because the truth is out there. And we want to bring it to you the best way we can. Here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family affiliates right around the world, and of course iHeartRadio. If you'd like to send an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And if you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Mark Allen Frost, and he is a counselor in psychology. He is an author, channel, and filmmaker. Now, over the past 16 years, he has written books with the famous metaphysical author and educator known as Seth. Recently, he has formed a production company to create visionary films based on the subjects in Seth's books. Mark and his wife, Carol Joy, a blogger and astrologer, live in Lake County, California with their rescue animals, Vanna Gogh, the cat, and Bella, the dog. Joining me now from California is Mark Allen Frost. And Mark, welcome to the X Zone. Great seeing you.
Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate it here.
And you know, as we were saying before we went to air, our thoughts and our prayers are with you and all the people in California who have endured those crazy wildfires.
Yes, well, we appreciate that. We had some rainfall a few days ago, which put an end to it for the most part up here, so we're grateful for that. Came out of nowhere.
An
unforecast rainstorm sort of rescued us.
Well, like I said, our thoughts are and prayers are with you and everybody there. God bless you all. Mark, can you tell us how you got involved with Seth? And I guess for the listeners who have no idea who Seth is, tell us who Seth is.
Seth is a non-physical being, self-described non-physical being. He also calls himself an entity, though we don't like to use that too much because of some negative connotations that people may have about entities. He first appeared in this reality, third-dimensional reality, he calls it, back in the 60s. He came through a Ouija board experience with Jane Roberts and her husband Robert Butts, and started communicating through them through the Ouija board. And from that moment forward, he immediately started writing books with them. So
wow.
They began with some books on ESP, and Jane talked about her experiences, sort of solidifying this experience, this mediumship experience with this totally enrapturing spirit who called himself Seth. He was very articulate.
Right.
He seemed to have the answers to everything. And so they would just ask him questions, and he would give them the answers as he saw them. Now, Jane passed away in the late 60s after a couple of decades of writing books with Seth. And so people thought that Seth was also silenced forever. But miraculously, it seems to me, one day I was doing a hypnotherapy practice as I was going to Dominican University to get my my master's degree so that I could be a marriage and family therapist.
Right.
Totally on track to be a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
But on the side, to make money, I had this little hypnotherapy practice. And one day this woman, she called herself Cass Smith, came in. She wanted a past life regression. One of my mentors at the college was really into alternative therapies, the paranormal and that type of thing, and told me what to do. He gave me some suggestions to use for her to explore past lives. She came in, I gave her a few suggestions, deeper and deeper, that type of thing, and presented a little string of successions in which I led her back into supposed past lives and to see what came up. Now, she immediately began to describe an apparent past life in which she was in the Roman Colosseum being devoured by lions.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. My reaction also.
I guess.
I sort of panicked because she was in agony.
Oh, Lord.
And I said, well, don't feel the pain. Project your body, project your consciousness out of your body.
Right.
And tell me what you're experiencing. She did that and described herself being devoured by these lions down to the bone. All was left was the bone. So I brought her out of that trance, and we both excitedly made plans to do another past life regression in a week or so. And I thought to myself, wow, I bet I write a book with this woman on past lives, because that experience proved to me that there was something to it, that there was something going on with the past lives therapy, people claiming that they experienced past lives. But in the interim, she phoned me and said she was doing a series of meditations with Benjamin Creme, the Maitreya.
Yes, I've had Benjamin on the show.
Yes, he's quite a guy.
He is.
And she said her meditations, they call it the transmission meditation, was being interrupted by some guy, she called him, calling himself Seth, saying that he wanted to write books again. Well, I was a student of Jane Roberts Seth, and so I was sort of excited and a bit cynical at the same time, because it was too amazing to be believed. But I did get her back in the office. We did some suggestions. I had some obsessed books surrounding us. His first 3 or 4 books to make him feel comfortable if he did come through.
Right.
And much to my amazement, after a couple of minutes of suggestions and me asking specifically, are you there, Seth?
Yes.
Can you come through, Seth? You're more than welcome to come through.
All right, and we've got to continue this amazing story on the other side of this break. Please stand by. Exonation. Mark Allen Frost is our special guest this hour, www.sethreturns.com. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on Simul TV.